being in 2000, and this was happening in the 1980s and 1990s. In January 2004, media reports emerged about the possible water poisoning in northeastern Kenya when the Nation newspaper published the death of over 7,000 livestock which had died after drinking water from a borehole in Kargi area of Marsabit County. Honorable Speaker, the committee collected water, the committee that had been formed collected water samples from the boreholes and wells for the affected region and conducted scientific investigation which revealed that the water contained elevated levels of nitrates and nitrates above those permissible for drinking. Honorable Speaker, further studies were carried out in a water sample collected from shallow wells and deep boreholes in Kargi village, and as well as solid samples from the sites that were decommissioned by Amoco Oil Company, being Bellatrix 1 and Silas 1. Honorable Speaker, in their report, other than observing that proper decommissioning procedure had not been followed at Bellatrix 1, the expert concluded that there was no clear relationship between the presence of the two materials as at the well site, that is bentonite and bainite, and the contamination of water in the borehole and the shallow wells. Honorable Speaker, the report indicated that the radioactivity levels of bainite and bentonite at 0.104 and U-238 as a reference of which the permissible level set out by the Radiation Protection Board. Honorable Speaker, the committee therefore recommended that NOC organizes for removal and disposal of abandoned scrap metal and obsolete drilling chemicals as indicated in Annex 1. NOC engaged Habasari Technical Investment Limited to remove and dispose of the abandoned scrap metal and obsolete drilling chemicals in 2005, and later submitted a report on the same to the authority. All the time during the said exercise, NOC was in constant communication with the authority through correspondence while sharing information on the process made at the site. Honorable Speaker, the task force collected fresh water from samples from shallow wells and boreholes together with abandoned drilling chemicals for analysis. Their report also concluded that the water had concentration of sulfites, acetics, nitrites, nitrates above the permissible level for drinking water. The task force recommended short-term action at Kargi to include: 1, removal of bentonite at the Bellatrix 1 oil exploration well, provision of alternative sources of water to the locals, and 3, the need to carry out studies on the cancer cases. Honorable Speaker, in an endeavor to dispel the fears of dumping of toxic and carcinogenic, NEMA organized for dissemination of information among local communities on the finding of various investigations carried out within the region. Honorable Speaker, NOC carried out detailed assessment of the requirement of disposable bentonite at Bellatrix 1 well, including the estimated cost of works at the site. The assessment indicated that there was no appropriate 1,000 tons of bentonite at Bellatrix 1, and NOC was expected to propose to NEMA the disposal options for the ease of collaboration. After careful evaluation of the disposal options proposed by NOC, NEMA approved and proposed options under the following condition. One, NOC undertakes an environmental impact assessment on selected site, incorporating risk assessment and management. And I want to say that, Honorable Speaker, in Annex 4, we have an EAI report license that is annexed under Annex 4. Two, NOC ensures the provision of remediation, post-care and maintenance plan. And Honorable Speaker, this one I have confirmed with the ministry, it has not been done. NOC notifies NEMA on completion of remediation works and submit a remediation report for evaluation, and that the sampling and analysis of appropriate parameters must be provided. And lastly, under 4, NOC involves the community and or project affected persons during the execution of remediation, post-care and maintenance. Honorable Speaker, NOC submitted the impact assessment, environmental impact assessment report on the disposal of bentonite at one of the sites to NEMA. NEMA reviewed the AIE, reported and issued NOC with a license number, AIE license number NEMA /AIE /PSL /15977, issued on the 20th December 2021, and I had earlier indicated under Annex 1. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to give the response.
Thank you, Honorable Gikaria. Who was the questioner? Member for Wajir South. Is he in the House?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Do you have any clarification to seek?
Thank you. Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I must say I'm surprised because the statement does not address the questions I raised. It's a clear case of evasion. It beats about the bush, and this is a challenge we have had with successive Kenyan governments over the years when it comes to atrocities committed against the people of northeastern Kenya. What I had sought to know from the committee was about the alleged dumping of nuclear and toxic waste in northeastern Kenya, something that has, according to the people of that part, given rise to the number of cancer patients in the region. It's a number that keeps increasing. There have been a number of environmental degradation and issues related with this issue. And what I had sought from the committee was if it could undertake an inquiry into the illegal dumping of hazardous nuclear waste in northeastern part of Kenya, including the environmental effects and the association with high cases of cancer reported in that part of the country. I had also wanted the ministry, from the ministry, to state what measures it had put in place that the residents of the region whose land was illegally used for dumping hazardous nuclear waste and whose health had been adversely affected by the harmful chemicals, and that they are fully compensated. I had also sought what regulatory measures the government had put in place to ensure that all hazardous waste and material, including nuclear waste, are securely disposed without causing harm to humans, animals, and the environment. Honorable Speaker, this is a grave matter that needs to be dealt with the seriousness it so much deserves. And I would really appreciate if the committee went back and gave us answers.
Member for Wajir South.
Yes, sir.
I gave you an opportunity to seek a clarification on the statement. You are now debating your statement. Gikaria?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I hear the member. Honorable Speaker, this statement was sought under Standing Order number 44 2C for the purpose of the toxic waste that was dumped in the early 80s and 90s. And to be honest, Honorable Speaker, when I read the request by the member under Roman 1, Roman 2, and Roman 3, it is true, Honorable Speaker, other than only Roman 1, that is where we have given a lot of emphasis, not concentrating on Roman 2, where he sought whether there were any compensation, and lastly, Roman 3, where he has requested. And to be honest, Honorable Speaker, this House has passed so many ratifications that we have had on these hazardous waste, the mercury issue, the Manimeta Convention, and so many, and that is what we expected in this statement as a response. So I totally request, Honorable Speaker, that if the member is dissatisfied, as he has indicated, as a committee, we can make an inquiry ourselves, because, Honorable Speaker, under the Standing Order number 44-2C, it is only that we sought a statement. So if we can be allowed as a committee, we could be able to make ourselves an investigation and be able to give a proper response. Thank you.
Okay,
Honorable
we'll
Speaker.
take two more. Major Bashir.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and for granting me this opportunity. Honorable Speaker, this issue of the toxic waste, as the chair of the committee has actually confirmed that the response is not really what we expected. Honorable Speaker, I want to urge this House, and with your indulgence, that we form a special select committee of Parliament to look into this matter, because that is the only way we can get to the bottom of this matter.
Major Bashir, you know what to do. If you want a select committee, bring a motion.
I will. Thank you very much.
Yes, we
So,
cannot form a select committee by your intervention.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. We will do that necessary and ensure that we bring a motion to have a select committee so that this matter is dispensed with once and for all. The lives of the people of northern Kenya and Kenyans at large is at risk because of what has been done in the previous years, that issues of drilling of wells, oil, and so forth have happened. And it's important that we have a conclusion on this matter. So I will, in my capacity as the chair of the Pastoralist Parliamentary Group, bring a motion to have a select committee for this matter to be concluded. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Wajir. Go ahead. Give the member the microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think the issue raised by the MP for Wajir South is a very important issue. The chairman of the Committee on Environmental only dwelt on specific area of Kargi, and the issue was for northern Kenya. In my constituency itself, I have an issue of the same nature, where wells were dug, were drilled, and even if you listen to him, the report he gave back to this House is that these things happened in the late 80s and early 90s. But the environmental impact assessments were done in the year 2000, 2000 and even today, the last 2 years, 2021. I think this committee should have gone into details of every region in this of northern Kenya that had wells drilled so that they come out with a comprehensive report on what happened. Mr. Speaker, our people are in fear. There's so much panic on this issue of because people already thought, they knew that there was a problem of cancer in the area. And now that when this allegation came, that there were actually toxic waste which were dumped in those areas, that has also brought up again another fear and panic into the society of Northern Region. So I think the chairman should go back and get a comprehensive report on this issue so that we address it once and for all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member Women Rep Isiolo. Oh. Then Farah Maalim. 1 minute, Mheshimiwa.
All right. Thank you, Chair. Chair, I rise to...
Please, Speaker.
Honorable Speaker, sorry about that. Speaker, this is a matter that we've all lived to experience in terms of the impact that our people have encountered as a result of the waste that has been dumped in that part of the country, that is northern Kenya. Personally, we do have a number of people who are suffering cancer as a result of that. And it all happened between 80s and 90s. It is not something you can deny. It is something probably will require as a country to investigate thoroughly and put it to a conclusion. So even if we try to run away from it, we will not run away from this matter. We will keep experiencing burden in our health sector because it continues to affect us every other day. If you look at the number of people who are suffering cancer in that part of the country, it is so much that it should concern everybody in this part of the country, and we get into investigation to get to the bottom of the matter. So, Mr. Speaker, kindly guide us on the same. We are concerned as members of parliament from that part.
Thank you. Farah Maalim, the last on that. Give Farah Maalim the mic.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I want to add my voice. Mr. Speaker, when we came to this house, me and you, late 1992, as early as 1993, I brought up this matter on the floor of the House. And the most strange thing about this, and I really want to see, to get the attention of my colleagues in this plenary, is that there were American soldiers, in some cases in uniform, who were moving around with drilling rigs, with very big containers that were in what you call vehicles, and everywhere where they were going to do the drilling of a borehole, they literally cordoned off that area. And the impression given is that these people are trying to drill for water to assist the community. But they will drill whatever they're going to drill. They put whatever they were going to put, and they cap it. And then, of course, this epidemic again of people around that place all ending up with cancer cases. Mr. Speaker, this thing has got a serious responsibility. At the time, I remember very well, the Minister for Energy was the late Biwott, Nicholas Biwott. I think there's need for us to get to the bottom of this thing. It's my considered conviction that serious money changed hands between outside countries and interests in outside countries and people who are in the system at the time from our own country. And it's because of that that people have decided to dump this thing because it's easier for them to dump it outside.
Seek a clarification from Gekaria.
Yes. So my position to the chair is that can we lift the veil on this thing and get to the bottom of it? Get to the bottom of this, because if we don't, any government in place is going to do the same things to different sections of the country, And this problem will be with us for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years to come.
Thank you.
So
Honorable Gikaria.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Gikaria,
Yes.
take your seat. In your preparation of order, in your preparation for this response, did you visit the affected areas or you just listened to public officers? Because listening to your statement is a total variance with the allegations being raised by members. Did you visit the affected areas?
Honorable Speaker, this is just a response which was given by the CS in charge of environment, climate change and forestry, signed by her. And the committee was, once we got when the statement was sought by the honorable member, it was taken to the ministry. So that is why I'd said actually indicated that we are also dissatisfied with the going by what the request was done and the response. And some of the issues, the Honorable Speaker, I want to agree with the members, is that they are talking about cancerous issues. And when you put NOC, which just does oil exploration, and NEMA, which is just concerned with environment matters, without involving the Ministry of Health for them to be able to check what could be the cause of the cancer-related diseases, then I think there was. So as a committee, yes, Honorable Speaker, we didn't visit. This is just a response from the ministry.
So I'll give you direction. Take time and interrogate that statement from the minister. As a committee, visit the affected areas and bring back a comprehensive report in the next 1 month.
Speaker. Most
Thank
obliged,
you.
Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, before we go to the next order, allow me to acknowledge the following schools in the public gallery. Isiolo Boys Secondary School from Isiolo North, Oshol Academy from Mombasa, Nyali, Rubate Secondary School from Igambangombe, Tharaka Nithi, Ngurubani Secondary School from where Kirinyaga, that's in the Speaker's Gallery, and Ngururumo High School from Laikipia West, Laikipia. I have been requested by the member women rep for Isiolo to welcome the school from her county, and the women rep, no, the member from where also. So take 1 minute to welcome your students.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
It's not here yet.
Honorable Speaker, I stand here as the Isiolo County Women Representative to welcome all the visitors here, and especially my boys from Isiolo Boys Secondary School, who are accompanied by their deputy principal, Mr. Mohamed Godana. I want to assure them that as a parliament, we are fighting to ensure that we provide the best education policies for all. What we ask all of you is to focus on your education. We need to see a continuous increase in an academic performance in our county, as was recently witnessed from the increase of 90 students to a whopping 264 students to university. My message to them is that never be afraid to ask questions, reach out and get support along the way. I'm proud of what you've accomplished so far, and I believe in you. There is more to come. Never forget that you are the dream of our nation. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Member from where?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance to welcome all the students in this house today. In a very special way, I'd like to welcome the students from Grubani Secondary School, Grubani Secondary School, Mr. Speaker, is one of the best schools in Moya constituency. I want to encourage them to work very hard, and I hope the visit to this house is going to inspire them to return to this house as honorable members, and that they are going to produce serious leaders of this country, because the future of this country is dependent on them. I wish you success, the students of Grubani Secondary School, and I know, like you promised me earlier, that you're going to work very hard in your studies and that you're going to pass with flying colors. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. On my behalf and on behalf of the whole House, I welcome the students to the House of Parliament. Additionally, there are the following schools in the public gallery: Anderson High School from Endebess, Trans Nzoia; Samoei Boys Secondary School from Nandi Hills, Nandi; Kiambere Secondary School from Mbere South, Embu. I've been requested by the women rep for Nandi County to welcome the students from Nandi Hills and the member for Nandi Hills as well. 1 minute each. Give her the microphone.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I take this opportunity to welcome all the students who are visiting Parliament, the 13th Parliament, Honorable Speaker, where I'm privileged to sit. And I want to specially invite or acknowledge the presence of Samoei Boys. Honorable Speaker, we call them the Spartans back at home, and they have done us proud. And Honorable Speaker, I want to note that, Honorable Speaker, in our county, we have serious big schools, Kapsabet Boys and the likes. And one school that is seriously growing bigger is Samoei Boys, and it is local, Honorable Speaker. Local, Honorable Speaker, I mean the admissions and the students in that school are 90% local. So this is the pride of Nandi, and we are proud of the Spartans from Samoei Boys High School. I want to wish them the very best, Honorable Speaker. 2 weeks ago, I was in their school, and we were able to speak about so many matters, including and not limited to them doing the best in their studies so that they can be able to become whatever they want to become. So Samoei Boys High School, led by their teachers and the principal, the very able Kimosop, we welcome you to Nairobi, to the 13th Parliament, and we want to wish you the very best from your woman rep.
Kitur.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As we welcome all students who have come to pay a visit to Parliament, and in particular, Samoei Secondary School. They call themselves the Green Commandos. This is an institution that, like last year, with 289 students, they were all posted to university with a mean of 9.6, and they've been growing. Indeed, this is an institution that can only be leveled to institutions like Alliance, Moi High School, Kabarak, where I studied, and any other best institution. In fact, Mr. Speaker, they had made an invite to all members of Parliament that they are inviting you on the 22nd of June, when they will be doing a great celebration for the great performance. So I want to wish you well, and you are all welcome to Parliament. Thank you.
Honorable Bukose for Endebess.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to join my colleagues to welcome Anderson High School from Endebess. It is the school at the border of Kenya and Uganda. And this school, Honorable Speaker, is the best school in Endebess. It was also number 4 within the county of Trans Nzoia in the last KCSE. It is the school that represented Kenya in the East African competition for volleyball. We are also it is also representing Kenya in chess game in South Africa. 4 of our athletes from this school are also international athletes, and they'll be representing the country in various athletes competitions within the continental and outside. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the House and you in particular. You know you are also from that region, and we appreciate your service. So thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I want to encourage Anderson High School that they are welcome to Parliament, and I hope that they'll also be able to perform well in this year. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Zamzam, what is this about the students? Go ahead. 1 minute.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika, na mimi kama mama Mombasa County niweze kuwakaribisha rasmi watoto wangu wa shule ya Visual Loshan, na niwaambie kuwa Nyinyi mmetuinua sana katika anga za Kenya, mmetuinua sana katika ramani ya Kenya kwa kutoa wanafunzi bora sana katika Kenya hii, kutoa madaktari na ufundi mwingi kutoka katika shule yenu. Kwa hiyo mimi nawahusia mzidi kushika kasi katika masomo. Kama ni wasichana, mcheze boli, msishike boli, tuweze kujenga taifa pamoja na muweze kufocus na masomo yenu. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Thank you. Still on order number 7, Rosa Buyu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your indulgence. I was slightly held up in the office attending to one of the constituents who'd come from Kisumu. Mr. Speaker, this is a request for a statement regarding compensation for land compulsorily acquired to construct Kisumu Northern Bypass. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44.2c, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Lands regarding the inordinate delay in compensation of landowners for land compulsorily acquired to construct the Kisumu Northern Bypass. Honorable Speaker, in 2015, almost 10 years ago, the government undertook major road infrastructure developments, including the construction of Kisumu Northern Bypass to ease congestion in Kisumu City. Owing to unavailability of a road reserve, the government compulsorily acquired land from some residents to construct the bypass. Article 43 of the Constitution obligates the government to promptly pay full compensation to any person whose land is acquired for public purpose. It is unfortunate, Mr. Speaker, that close to 10 years since some landowners ceded their land to the state for the Noble project, the government is yet to compensate them. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Lands on the following. 1, could a report be provided detailing all persons whose land was compulsorily acquired for construction of the Kisumu Northern Bypass in 2015? Also, provide the value of the acquired land and the status of compensation in respect of each of the affected landowners. 2, explain the reasons for delayed compensation of 18 affected landowners, despite numerous follow-up initiatives made through Usomaki Social Justice Center, a community-based organization. 3, Mr. Speaker, state the plans that the government has put in place to promptly compensate the affected land years since they handed over their land to the government, and state when the compensation will be settled. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Chair Lands. Chair Lands. Hold Nyamoko. Yes, Jared.
Thank you, Mr.
Hold on, Nyamoko. Jared, what is it?
I thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for allowing me to joyride on the statement as read by Honorable Rosa Buyu. Honorable Speaker, the situation is actually uglier than she's putting it. When this idea was birthed in the year 2015 to come up with the Kisumu Northern Corridor that joins the airport road to Mambuleo, to Muhoroni, and ultimately Londiani Junction, Honorable Speaker, the owners of parcels along that corridor were forcefully evicted from their homes to create a pathway. Honorable Speaker, it was done under the premise of compensation, which has not happened to this very day, almost 10 years down the line, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, some of the family members were plugged into other relatives' homes, overstretching budgetary allocations for individual families, Honorable Speaker, with the hope of getting compensation at the end of the day. 10 years they have been waiting. Those families got tired with the family members and relatives, and most of them do not actually have where to stay because their abodes were demolished by the government. Honorable Speaker, even as the Chair Lands Committee undertakes to carry out a comprehensive investigation that will lead to compensation, we ask that this is expedited. Otherwise, we are losing lives as a result of frustrations and depressions by these families.
Thank you. You've made your point.
I thank you. I thank you.
Chair Lands, when can you bring the response? 2 weeks?
In the next 2 weeks, Mr. Speaker.
For that, thank you. Next order.
Order number 8, the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendments Bill, National Assembly Bills number 67 of 2023. Resumption of debate.
Honorable members, before we resume the debate, at order number 10, when we go into the Committee of the Whole, we have consideration of Senate amendments to the National Rating Bill, National Assembly Bill number 55 of 2022, and the Kenya Drugs Authority Bill, National Assembly Bill number 54 of 2022. In regard to the Kenya Drugs Authority Bill, order, Member Bashir, order. The man you are talking to should be listening to this because he's your majority leader. When we get to the drugs bill, the view of the House Business Committee was that we step down this bill for a while pending consultations because I have a report that indicates that the bill has been amended so much to the extent that it has lost its original character. You have amended until you are amending the long title, the short title, the definitions, virtually everything. And under our standing orders, you cannot amend a motion until you negative the original intention. So we will talk with Dr. Bukose, the chair of the committee. If we are satisfied that the amendments are so far reaching us that they have altered the intent and the character of the bill, then Dr. Bukose may be advised to republish a fresh bill to capture what the amendments are looking for. That is the law, both in our jurisdiction and in comparable jurisdictions around the Commonwealth. Next order, it's been called out. Who was on the floor? Honorable Njendi Malulu, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to continue by saying that this particular amendment was even opposed by the Committee on Energy. It was also opposed by the ministry itself through a letter that was sent to the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, the committee recommended that this particular agency, NUPEA, should be adequately funded. It also said that it recommended that this agency should continue discharging its mandates as required in Section 56 of the Energy Act. So, Mr. Speaker, I oppose this based on those facts. However, Mr. Speaker, after I developed keen interest in the main act and also the amendments, I found that Section 54 of the Energy Act of 2019 that establishes NUPEA, there was no any amendments on this particular section in regard to what was said on the floor by the move of the motion. And as much as the memorandum of objects and reasons indicating the winding up of this agency, Mr. Speaker, we look at the amendments that are there in the miscellaneous amendment bill that is on the floor, we don't have any amendments to that effect. So this leaves me even wondering why this was mentioned by the mover and it appears in the objects. I mean, the memorandum of objects and reasons, and yet the main amendments do not reflect what was actually argued by the mover. Mr. Speaker, as I had said earlier, that was the only one that I was opposing in terms of amendment. Otherwise, I was in support with the rest of the amendments. And particularly, I'm impressed with the amendment that includes KPLC in the membership of REREC. Mr. Speaker, this will ensure effective collaboration between REREC and KPLC, because we've had a lot of challenges on the ground, in the field when it comes to lighting in our villages, in our constituencies. Mr. Speaker, we are aware REREC is really doing a good work in terms of last mile installation in our villages. What we have noted is that because of the disconnect between KPLC and REREC, the REREC does the installation of last mile, identifies homesteads, identifies houses. It actually constructs a power line up to the point of a transformer. Mr. Speaker, what usually happens after commissioning by REREC and handing over this power to Kenya Power, it can take 6 months, it can take 2 years or even 3 years before Kenya Power actually does the metering in homes. This, Mr. Speaker, results into a lot of complaints. It results into a lot of vandalism of property that belongs to Kenya, to REREC, so that at the end of the day, when the meters normally come, you find that Kenya Power or REREC is spending further in terms of repairing and purchasing the property that was destroyed. Mr. Speaker, also, this will enable us not to lose any opportunity in terms of using the power that is normally at our doorsteps, and yet because of lack of metering, we don't enjoy it. Mr. Speaker, also, we've had a lot of challenge that after we have, REREC has installed the transformer, powered the transformer, when it takes time to install, to put meters in people's homes, and scrupulous contractors normally come and start laying illegal lines, so that you find many other homes have been connected outside the 600-meter requirement. You find that when the time comes for metering now, we have also a problem now, conflict, and then an MP is involved, household complaining that how come I have a meter and I've not been connected to the power line. So I support all these except this particular one of winding up NUPEA and transferring resources of NUPEA to the Ministry of Energy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Didymus.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And I want to state from the very beginning that I support this miscellaneous amendment bill because, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the proposed amendment to the Children's Act, it's basically the bill proposes to enable the courts so they can be able to allow an application by a man to adopt a child. You understand, Mr. Speaker, that in this country there are very many men who are single-handedly taking care of their families, and they should be allowed to adopt a child, Honorable Speaker. With regard to the Copyright Act, Honorable Speaker, it is important that there are very many artists or content creators in this country. They should be remunerated from the same level, and we must have some clear management in terms of what the Copyright Board will follow to ensure that there is equity and fairness insofar as sharing the royalties is concerned, Honorable Speaker. And also, the amendments number 1 of 2015 to the Scrap Metal Act of 2015, Honorable Speaker, it is a very good amendment because it's going to protect the very critical infrastructure in the energy sector in this country that have been suffering from people who vandalize, who steal transformers, who steal cables, so that for you to deal with copper and aluminum, you must have a special license, which I am sure it will undergo some type of vetting, so that a farm, before a farm is given a license to begin to deal in scrap copper and aluminum, they must demonstrate where they are getting those copper from, not to be the ones that are vandalizing the copper in this country, Honorable Speaker. Basically, Honorable Speaker, these miscellaneous amendments is just to cleaning up various statutes to realign them with our constitution and the very many changing policies in this country. And it's a good thing that we are going to move forward, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the essence of these miscellaneous amendments is that, Kenya as a country is run on policies. And when a government implements a policy or a law, we have a team of government, both in government and outside government, that have a responsibility of monitoring and evaluating how those policy and those amendments, those laws, statute laws, are either beneficial to the country in terms of how much budgetary allocations they are receiving, how much value that the Kenyans are getting, and as a country and as a house, we have a responsibility to either terminate those various policies or rather improve them so that the Kenyan people can continue to get a benefit of these very many laws, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, even as I support these laws, we must be aware that at times these miscellaneous amendment bills can be brought in to misuse. But I have gone through this document and I can confirm to this House that each and every proposed clause has beneficial to this country. And once these amendments have been approved, this law will go a long way into ensuring that the Children's Act is properly beneficial to the country. The Copyright Act goes ahead to benefit the very many artists and local contents in this country. The scrap metal that has always been a bit misused, Honorable Speaker, by vandalizing bridges, guardrails, by vandalizing electrical power lines, is not going to continue happening again, Honorable Speaker. So I will support even the Fisheries Management and Development Act is also going to ensure that the fishing, that is one of the key economic activities for majority of Kenyans, benefits people who engages in that trade, Honorable Speaker. And for that very many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I want to unequivocally support this statute law, Miscellaneous Amendment Bill of 2023. I support, Honorable Speaker.
Samuel Atandi. Are you queuing for this? And this is what I keep on telling you members.
Honorable Speaker, I'm waiting to talk on equalization.
Pardon?
I'm waiting to comment on the equalization bill.
On the?
Equalization Appropriations Bill.
Kibet Komingoi. Absent. Moses Kirima. Honorable Kaluma.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I support...
Just before Kaluma, you go on, Clerk, can you wipe the screen? And those who want to speak to this motion, this bill, put in your requests. I see Thuku Kwenya, I see Samuel Atandi. You've changed your mind. Then remove your card. Okay.
Yeah, Honorable Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to address the matter of this bill. Honorable Speaker, I support the proposed amendments to the Judicial Service Act, just as I also support the proposed amendments to the Parliamentary Service Act. Honorable Speaker, I support these particular provisions because the mandate of these particular commissions are in the Constitution. The Parliamentary Service Commission has to deal with matters of facilities and welfare for members. We've had situations in the past, Honorable Speaker, where sister commissions are encroaching into the mandate of the Parliamentary Service Commission. And I support this particular amendment because it would make it clear those matters which the Parliamentary Service Commission and the Judicial Service Commission should be dealing with. Honorable Speaker, we must remember there is a good reason as to why we have a Parliamentary Service Commission for this arm of government, and then we have a Judicial Service Commission for the other arm of government. We need those commissions to protect these two arms within the areas of their constitutional mandates. But Honorable Speaker, I oppose amendments proposed to the Children's Act, as I do also the amendments proposed to the Adoption Act. Honorable Speaker, it is proposed to amend the Children's Act to delete Section 184, subsection 4. And Honorable Speaker, just to put the Parliament in good light, let me read what Section 186, subsection 4 deals with. Honorable Speaker, the subject under Section 186 is the matter of who may apply to adopt a child. Who may apply to adopt a child. At subsection 4, it says the court shall not make an adoption order in favor of a sole male applicant, unless the applicant is a blood relative of a child. We are proposing to delete this provision to allow any male applicant, even if not related to a child, and in spite the gender of that child, to adopt a child. Honorable Speaker, that is a very dangerous amendment proposition. Why would I, as a male person, seek to adopt a child I'm not related to, and I'm sole, I'm not living with a female? Number one, what am I to do with the child if there is no distinction, Honorable Speaker, as to the gender of the child? Honorable Speaker, I'm addressing a proposed deletion of Section 186, subsection 4. A very dangerous proposal, Honorable Speaker, coming through this statute law miscellaneous amendment. And Honorable Speaker was explaining that when you read Section 186, Honorable Speaker, it is at page 1815 of the bill. 186, subsection 4, proposed to be deleted. At that page, it says the court shall not make an adoption order in favor of a sole male applicant unless the applicant is a blood relative of the child. Honorable Speaker, we know what it takes to take care of a young child. How can a male person who is a sole male person, not in marriage, not with any other person, adopt such a child? And we are not talking about the gender of the child. How can I be allowed to adopt a child I'm not related to, who is a girl, and I go with this child? Honorable Speaker, I want to say this provision is very dangerous. And I wanted to say, Honorable Speaker, that we took a lot of thought into the current Children's Act. And we had very good reasons to have this provision. We could risk children to defile us.
Order, Honorable Kajwang. Stop cheering. Go on.
Honorable Speaker, you could have people who are not related to a child. We have not specified even the gender of the child. These people can mess up a child beyond measure and beyond the control of the court. And Honorable Speaker, I wanted to ask the members that there is a good reason as to why we prescribed the subsection 4 of Section 186, which is sought to be removed. We oppose this one. Number two is that this particular provision, Honorable Speaker, is quite substantive to be considered, casually within the context of a statute law miscellaneous amendment bill. Honorable Speaker, at Section 186, subsection 6F, Honorable Speaker, you'll again see at that same page 1815, the deletion being proposed. And Honorable Speaker, this is very serious. I wished particularly our county members of parliament, would look at these provisions. Very critical for the family. Honorable Speaker, this deals with adoption of a child. And the provision which is sought to be removed at 6F says, the court shall not make an adoption order in favor of an applicant or joint applicants if the applicant or joint applicants or any of them is a foreign applicant except where the applicant is a biological relative of the child. What is the problem with that provision? It is protecting our children. Honorable Speaker, we've had cases of child trafficking. We've had cases of organ harvesting, sourced from children being moved from jurisdictions to other jurisdictions. We have cases of child pornography. I mean, how do you want to delete a provision which is securing our children from foreigners unless they are biological relatives? What protection do those children have after they are moved out of jurisdiction? Honorable Speaker, these are very fundamental provisions. And I wanted to say that if we are dealing with the provisions of Article 53, particularly the rights of the child as protected under Article 53, if we read it keenly, we cannot delete these provisions proposed. And an honorable Speaker, on these two proposed deletions, I'm opposed. Otherwise, I support every provision, even though they are substantive. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Kwenya Thuku. Kwenya Thuku is in the
Thank you,
house.
thank you,
Yes, Kwenya.
thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to contribute on this miscellaneous amendment bill. And Mr. Speaker, from the onset, I am in support of some of the amendments herein, but I also want to give my thoughts in a few as far as I'm concerned and the feel of the people of Kinangop. Mr. Speaker, I want to support from the onset the inclusion of Kenya Power and Lighting Company in the membership, to be in the membership of Rural Electrification and Renewable Energy Corporation. We have had issues of electrification in our constituencies, Mr. Speaker, and once work is done by REREC, there have not been proper transition from REREC to the body now that takes charge of the power lines and serves our people with electricity. Because of lack of proper, the lack of proper transition is because Kenya Power is not represented in the board of REREC. And therefore inclusion of KPLC in the same, that would be a step in the right direction. Mr. Speaker, of importance in this bill that I wish to give my thoughts is on the issue of this amendment that is proposed on the Scrap Metal Act of 2015. Mr. Speaker, I see a lot of mischief in this bill. Reason being, we are proposing, or there's a proposal that scrap metal dealers, and especially those dealing with copper, aluminium, and copper and aluminium alloy, to have special license to export copper, aluminium, and the two combined. And Mr. Speaker, this should worry everybody. One of the biggest issues that we're dealing with today is transformers vandalism. Vandalism as far as extraction of copper is concerned, because we know they are pricey. And Mr. Speaker, we all know that the Republic of Kenya, we do not produce copper. And therefore, why are we licensing people to deal with copper? I think the best thing to do, Mr. Speaker, is to ban the export of copper completely and leave that business to the two entities that have been mentioned here. The numerical machining complex, and Kenya Shipyard. So that then if there are any scrap metals as far as the two metals are concerned, then they are consolidated, they are smelted, and therefore have billets that are under the custody of the two public entities. Then they can be auctioned in public, Mr. Speaker, as opposed to giving special licenses. And actually, this is now being left to the hands of ACS, who now will decide who to issue these licenses to. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, we may be forming cartels that are going to be responsible of vandalizing our transformers, and this is a challenge that we've been having every year. I had a conversation with one of our officers in Rerek, and actually they brought my attention on this issue, Mr. Speaker. And because we represent people and we know the kind of losses that this country is running into because of this illegal, or maybe let me just say legal trade, whereby we have licensed vandalizers. Mr. Speaker, I am opposed to this amendment, and in fact, I am going to bring up amendments that are going to delete any form of licensing of scrap metal dealers and as far as copper is concerned, because we do not produce the same, and therefore exporting the same would be a question that we need to answer as a house. Let us leave this to the two public entities that have been mentioned in this bill to deal with the consolidation of the same and maybe selling the same in public auction. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, I support anything else that is in this bill, but on that one, I'm opposed and I'm going to bring an amendment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What is the point of order?
Mr. Speaker, something troubles me. You know, bills come before us, we process them in second reading, and it would appear as though the normal situation is to pass bills. Mr. Speaker, we have spoken about this ever since I came to this Bunge in 2013, that statute miscellaneous amendments should only focus on issues that are correcting the law, minor issues of law. Now, Mr. Speaker, with you, because you are a doyen of authority, and you are the chairman of the rules and procedure, if we are unable to tame the executive from where these bills are coming, are we able to change our rules so that we make sure that when the clerk is perusing a bill, if the clerk finds, and in the speaker's discretion, if it turns out that a legislation is so fundamental and substantial that requires policy, the speaker or the clerk would refuse to process that kind of bill? Because even as we speak, Honorable Kaluma has spoken, and the member there has eloquently spoken, you will see that all this, in spite of what they have said, except for committee of the whole House, we will still pass them, notwithstanding what they are, notwithstanding the fact that there is no policy, notwithstanding the fact that they have not been clearly thought of. Mr. Speaker, I just want to harvest from your experience. Is it possible that your committee, the Rules Committee, we could come up with a change of the standing orders? Because presently, nothing like that appears. Thank you.
Bring your petition to the Rules Committee to be looked out. I have no reason to believe that this bill will go through or not until you vote. So we leave it there. Bring a petition to look at it.
Let me summarize, Mr. Speaker, by saying I am opposed to this amendment. I am going to bring in further amendments so that then we align and make sure that there's no trade that is going to happen in this country in as far as exportation of copper is concerned. Mr. Speaker, I support with reservations.
Zamzam Chimba.
Mheshimiwa Spika, na mimi naangalia sheria, marekebisho ya sheria ya watoto kipengee cha 29 ya 2022. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi pia napenda kupigia pondo ndugu yangu Kaluma alivyozungumza, akasema watoto wamepewa ulinzi katika katiba. Mheshimiwa Spika, na kama mama ni vizuri kweli tujue kuwa mtoto anapokuwa ataka kuchukuliwa na mzazi mwingine iwe ni katika familia ya mtoto. Mheshimiwa Spika, tumeona mataifa ya nje wameweza kupitisha mswada wa kununua watu. Mheshimiwa Spika, watu watakuwa wananunuliwa kama peremende dukani, kama switi, kama maziwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, na hii inatupa wasiwasi. Nimeiona hiyo bill imepita Marekani, Mheshimiwa Spika, na naona hapa Tukitoa hiki kipengee cha kuweza kuwalinda watoto wetu, kutakuwa na mwanya wa mtu yoyote kutoka sehemu yoyote kuchukua mtoto kwa jina la adoption, lakini pengine wanaenda kutumika kwa mambo mengine, Mheshimiwa Spika. Na hasa kipengee kile kimemlinda mtoto kusema kuwa mtu wa kiume, mwanaume asiweze kuchukua mtoto, kwa sababu kwanza mwanaume hajapewa ile nguvu ya kuweza kulea mtoto kama vile mama. Kwa hiyo mimi napenda hichi kipengee kisiweze kuguswa, ili wale watoto wetu waweze kupata ulinzi, wasiweze kujipata katika mikono ya watu ambao si watu wazuri, Mheshimiwa Spika. Watu wengi wanaingia na jina la adoption, Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini mwisho wa kwisha wanaenda kutumia watoto, wengine wanatoa viungo vya mwili, huwezi kujua mtoto kama anakaa vizuri, hakuna mtu ambaye anafuatilia kule mtoto alikokwenda. Kwa hiyo ni vizuri mtu wa karibu wa damu ya mtoto ndio aweze kuchukua mtoto, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hii mimi nasema hichi kipengee kisiweze kubadilishwa. Asante sana, Mheshimiwa Spika.
Marwa Kitayama.
Mheshimiwa Spika, ingawaji nilikuwa nataka kuchangia kwa hoja ambayo inafuatia, lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, ni wazi kwamba kuna matatizo.
Kama hizi ile ulitaka, yield the floor to somebody else.
Well guided, Mr. Speaker.
Paul Nabuin, Turkana North.
Speaker, I wasn't keen on which one was coming through.
Thank you. Honorable members, let me repeat what I've been telling you. If a motion is on the floor by way of a bill such as this, if you have no intention of contributing to it, don't log in, so that you fill the screen, you make it difficult for whoever is in the chair, including the speaker, to know who wants to speak on this and who doesn't. Wilberforce Oundo, are you on this or
yes,
anticipating
Speaker.
something else?
No, it's on this matter. I had actually been checking with the state. I was on top. I don't know how I've been just lost my position all of a sudden.
Go ahead.
Honorable Speaker, as a matter of principle, since I came here to the 12th Parliament, I have always had reservation about miscellaneous amendment bills. They are miscellaneous, but they are mischievous. The mischief has always come out very apparent once the bill is completed as required by law. Honorable Speaker, the bill, as published, has got very fundamental amendments to the law, and some go to the core of the various bills of rights under the Constitution of Kenya, and therefore should not actually meet the threshold of a miscellaneous bill to rectify minor changes. Honorable Speaker, let me start with the Children's Bill, Children's Act, amendment to the Children's Act. Honorable Speaker, which proposes to delete Section 186(4) of the Principal Act. Honorable Speaker, I totally oppose, and I oppose it on various grounds. Number one, the way Section 4 is styled gives some kind of protection against child abuse. Honorable Speaker, ordinarily, child abuse is not invariably, in many cases, perpetuated by male. Honorable Speaker, allowing the courts to allow a single man, or a single applicant, a sole applicant who is a male, to adopt a child, regardless whether it's a relative or not, is indeed a precursor for abusing that particular child. Honorable Speaker, I cannot fathom why a drafter would want to do this and put a Kenyan child in harm for purposes nobody understands. So, Honorable Speaker, I stand to oppose, and I will indeed, that particular law, make amendments accordingly. Honorable Speaker, when we go to the Scrap Metal Act, the amendments are long overdue because of the issue of critical national infrastructure. And indeed, the definition of critical national infrastructure has been inserted and expanded, Honorable Speaker. Many of us suffer, many Kenyans suffer, vandalism of the railway line, vandalism of the guardrails, vandalism for electrical installation, and all those kind of things. Styling them as national critical infrastructure and barring their trade other than designated state agencies is the right way forward. But, Honorable Speaker, we again conversely introduce the issue of monopolistic practices in the market. Probably in the wisdom of the Committee of Energy, we need to find it in such a way that the Cabinet Secretary can license any competent national agency, state agency, sort of restricting to only the two, Numerical Machining Complex and Kenya Shipyard Limited, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, when we look at the amendments to the National Employment Authority Act, it is sad reading, Honorable Speaker. Sad reading in two senses. Honorable Speaker, in this bill, we perpetuate the old stereotype that a job must be one where somebody is formally employed. And that's why now we are introducing a job seeker instead of what was there as a youth. A job seeker, Honorable Speaker, therefore it means even a 70-year-old person could still be categorized as a job seeker. That will defeat the essence of the National Employment Authority Act, which focus was on the youth. Even, Honorable Speaker, when you read the other provisions, then by changing of the word from youth to job seeker, you defeat the amendments contained in clause 2, or dealing with section 37, which says the authority shall establish incentives to reward a private institution that employs Kenyans within 6 months of completing the certificate or undergraduate studies and who do not possess more than 5 years' experience. Honorable Speaker, inevitably those are the youths. They're the ones who are in active training. So, Honorable Speaker, if you introduce the word job seeker, then you expand the application of this incentive to anybody else. And, Honorable Speaker, again, the danger we are creating here, we are again perpetuating that a job seeker must be, in so quotes, must have a written job. Yet, under Vision 2030, MTP3, and as expanded MTP4, a job does not need to have been a formal employment. You can run your own job. You can run your own self-entrepreneurship. You do not have to be a job seeker. We are stereotyping the old mentality that a job is a white-collar job. And that's why we're looking at the publication definition of a job seeker. We will move to amend that particular to erase any focus, any reference to a job seeker, to probably retain the youth or those whose job are in such a way they require a certain kind of a job. Honorable Speaker, the amendments under the Energy Act are progressive and good. However, Honorable Speaker, there's a provision that says any vessel that is used to convey the vandalized or stolen equipment or appliance referred to in subsection 1 shall be forfeited to the state. Honorable Speaker, there are forgeries, there are car thefts, there is misuse, there's where unauthorized use of the motor vehicle. Why would you punish the owner of the motor vehicle for reasons that he does not even know? And I give an example, Honorable Speaker. Last year, there was a contractor who brought material. Some people came to steal the material. The vehicle they used was a stolen vehicle with forged number plates. Honorable Speaker, probably we need to put a provision that as long as whoever the owner of the vehicle can prove that he did not authorize for the use of that vehicle. Finally, Honorable Speaker, allow me to make a comment on the Parliamentary Service Act and the Judicial Service Act. And this, we are trying to legislate, Honorable Speaker, matters that could have purely been administrative of nature. If it wasn't for intransigency of Salaries and Remuneration Commission, we would not have gotten to this level. This is now, we epitomize misuse of powers conferred to any particular state agency in either in the Constitution or an Act of Parliament. The CRC, to the very layman's understanding, and even a lawmaker's understanding was basically to deal with salaries. The basics of mileage, basics of sleeping allowance, basics of daily allowances should surely be such mundane matters that a board of such content provided from the Constitution should not go into this. But we are forced to legislate this because CRC has become rogue, so to speak, has usurped power beyond the powers that was. Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, miscellaneous amendment bill is always a mischievous amendment, so that there's less focus on particular important matters so they get through. But I want to urge my colleagues who are here, the amendments and the Children's Act are extremely dangerous. I would even request JLAC to actually disallow or even remove an amendment, not to allow those particular amendments, because we are endangering the Kenyan children. We are allowing the Kenyan children to be in the hands of abusers, people who are going to abuse these children, regardless of relationship, whether blood or not. Honorable Speaker, with those few remarks, I support the bill, but with reservations that will move in the committee of the whole House. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Narok East, Honorable Aramat.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support the amendment bills. Madam Speaker, there is an amendment bill of winding up the nuclear agency. And Madam Speaker, we feel as a committee that winding up of the nuclear energy agency would not be of interest to this country. Madam Speaker, the nuclear agency is a state corporation established under the Energy Act of 2019, and it is in charge with the responsibility of promoting and implementing the nuclear programs in Kenya. Madam Speaker, Kenya has been a member state of the International Atomic Energy Agency since 1965, and this United Nations specialized agency responsible for safety, secure, and peace use of nuclear technology. Madam Speaker, we saw fit as a committee that the Nuclear Energy Agency, NUPEA, which has not been adequately funded by the Exchequer, should be funded adequately. And secondly, Madam Speaker, that the NUPEA should continue to discharge its mandate as stipulated in subsection of 56(1) of the Energy Act. Madam Speaker, we don't intend or we request this House to support the nuclear agency so that it should not be winded up. Madam Speaker, in our recommendation, Madam Speaker, that we intend to bring in the floor of this House, the committee proposes amendments that were supposed to be amendment to section 210, 12(1)(e), 20, and Madam Speaker, we intend to table them in the committee of the whole House when it comes to the whole House, so that our recommendation as the committee should also be taken in or taken into consideration. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Marakwet West, Honorable Timothy Toroitich.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to comment on this particular proposed legislation. Honorable Speaker, from the onset, I associate myself with the sentiments of Honorable Kaluma and Honorable Undo. Honorable Speaker, that sometimes it seems like we are sneaking in substantive amendments to certain legislations using statute law miscellaneous, which is an omnibus. Honorable Speaker, I believe, and I want I believe that this kind of miscellaneous amendments using a statute law are only meant to correct certain minor amendments. Honorable Speaker, looking at this bill in its entirety, it introduces very substantive amendments which ideally should be amendments in the parent legislations. Honorable Speaker, for example, if you look at the provision on the Children's Act, the amendment of the Children's Act, which touches on adoption, Honorable Speaker, my opinion is that particular amendment should be brought under the Children's Act, not under a miscellaneous statute law, because it goes to the core of that particular Children's Act. Honorable Speaker, if, for example, you look at that particular provision on the issue of adoption, Honorable Speaker, it provides for deletion of Section 186(4) of the Children's Act. Honorable Speaker, that provision provides that the court shall not make an adoption order in favor of a sole male applicant unless the applicant is a blood relative of the child. Honorable Speaker, in my opinion, the wisdom behind that particular provision of the law under the Children's Act was to protect the best interest of our children. Honorable Speaker, we now want to delete that particular provision and give sole male applicants the ability or the capacity to adopt children. In my opinion, that is actually the reason I have read the report. They are saying that that particular provision is discriminatory. Honorable Speaker, in my opinion, the same was put in that particular law to protect the best interest of a child. Honorable Speaker, we are giving a sole male applicant, for example, to adopt a girl. Honorable Speaker, we are not sure whether the best interest of that particular child will be protected by that sole male applicant. Honorable Speaker, that is a provision that when the time comes, I will propose that that particular provision be deleted. Honorable Speaker, subsequently, this also provision provides under 186 that 186F be deleted. Honorable Speaker, what does 186F say? Honorable Speaker, it provides that the court shall not make an adoption order in favor of an applicant or joint applicants if the applicant or joint applicants or any of them is a foreign applicant, except where the applicant is a biological relative of the child. Honorable Speaker, so we are opening up adoption of foreigners. Honorable Speaker, it must be with exemptions. If you read at this, so if we open up adoption for foreigners to our children, then it must be with moderation. So, Honorable Speaker, we must look further. If, for example, in the unlikely event that we adopt this particular amendment and we allow foreigners to adopt our children, then we must set up exemptions to that. As we speak, there are no exemptions to foreigners adopting our young children. So, Honorable Speaker, I oppose those two provisions, but Honorable Speaker, the others that I support. There is a provision to amend the National Youth Employment Act to delete the word youth. Honorable Speaker, that is an amendment that I support because that law must not only be in respect to the youth. Honorable Speaker, the issue of unemployment in this country is something that we must be able to address. And the wisdom behind that particular law was to address the issues of youth unemployment. But this country, there are so many graduates who are churning out of universities, and some do not get jobs even after exceeding the age of 35, which is outside the age of the youth bracket. So, Honorable Speaker, I support the amendment to the effect that in the title of that particular law, we delete the word youth so that it is that law becomes the National Employment Act, so that it doesn't confine itself to the youth only. There are people in this country who are 38 years, they are 40 years, they are 45 years, they are 50 years, but have not been employed. So if we have this act only apply to the unemployed youth, then it is discriminatory upon those who have attained the age of 35 because this particular law will not apply to them. So I support the amendment to the extent that the word youth is deleted so that it becomes the National Employment Authority. So, Honorable Speaker, I rise to express my mind on this particular statute law amendment, but to the extent that we shall have time to express our reservations when it comes to the second reading. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Aldai.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I stand to support the amendments to the scrap metal bill with reservations. And the first of the reservations, as discussed by the committee, is the composition of the Scrap Metal Council. The Scrap Metal Council, as proposed in the bill, does not take care of all the players who are supposed to be in this particular council. For example, this composition does not have, for example, the Ministry of Trade, Industry. It actually just talks about industrialization, and it also recognizes a person nominated by a body called Scrap Metal Dealers Association, which association is not registered or recognized as a body corporate in law. So therefore, the amendments to the Scrap Metal Council, the committee, with the trade committee which had considered this, shall be bringing those amendments. The second amendment is on restrictions from dealing in the scrap metal, and it talks about these restrictions shall be only given to people who are members of Scrap Metal Dealers Association. As I mentioned, the Scrap Metal Dealers Association is a body that is not a body corporate registered or not a body that can be recognized in law, and therefore the amendment that we shall be bringing as a committee is that the license or the scrap metal dealers shall be registered by the Scrap Metal Council as opposed to the Scrap Metal Dealers Association. The other issue is on issues of exports of scrap metal. I think the committee considered this and brought out issues to do with exports be allowed for certain metals except restrictions to rare metals like copper and other rare metals, and that I think should come out clearly because those metals